You know, when you think about the Amazon rainforest, what comes to mind? Probably fires, right? Chainsaws. And yeah, that's a huge part of it, but it's really only half the story. There's this other side, a hidden human cost that's actually fueling all that destruction. So everything we're going to dive into today is based on some really solid research. We're leaning heavily on a brand new 2025 report from Climate Rights International, and what they've uncovered is this deep and honestly pretty disturbing link between environmental crime and, you guessed it, human rights abuses. All right, let's start with just one number, 80%. Just let that sink in for a second. What do you think that represents? Because this single figure, well, it's pretty much at the heart of the Amazon's fate. So, that 80%, that is the amount of forest clearing in the Amazon that's done for one reason, and one reason only, to create pasture for cattle. We're talking about cattle ranching. It's not just a big deal, it is the single biggest driver of deforestation anywhere in the world, by a long shot. And look, this isn't just some far-off problem in another country. The scale of what's happening here, it puts all of us at risk, the entire planet. Because, as you know, the Amazon isn't just any forest.
I mean, just to wrap your head around the sheer size of it all, the Amazon is the biggest land-based carbon reserve on Earth. It stretches across 9 different countries, 60% of it is in Brazil alone, and get this, over a third of the whole thing is legally recognized indigenous territory.
You know, the fight to save the Amazon has been a real roller coaster. Back in 2004, things were looking grim. Deforestation was at its peak. But then, by 2012, Brazil managed to cut it by over 80%, which is incredible, right? It proved it could actually be done. But that progress didn't stick. The numbers shot back up by 2021. And yeah, they've dropped again recently, but believe me, the forest is nowhere near out of the woods. There's this quote from the head of Brazil's environmental agency that it hits the nail on the head. He said, "We've slowed the train, but we're still headed for disaster." Think about that. We've made some progress, sure, but that train is still speeding towards a tipping point, a point where huge parts of the forest could just dry out, releasing absolutely catastrophic amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. So the big question is, why? Why is this still happening, even when we know the risks? To get to the bottom of that, we have to follow the money. We need to unpack the really powerful economic forces that are driving all of this. Okay, so we hear a lot about soy plantations and mining and logging, right? And those are definitely problems, but the reality when you look at the data is just stark. Cattle ranching is responsible for 4 times more deforestation than all of those other things combined. It's not even close. It all comes down to profits. The money to be made from raising cattle on a legally cleared land is just so immense, it creates this incentive that's so powerful, it just steamrolls any attempts at enforcement. But the real question is, how are those profits being maximized? And that, my friends, is where this whole story takes a really dark turn. Right? This is that hidden cost we talked about at the beginning. This is where you see that environmental crime and human rights abuse aren't just related, they're basically 2 sides of the same coin. Listen to this. This is a direct quote from a Brazilian federal labor prosecutor. He said, "When illegal deforestation is found, we generally also find workers in conditions analogous to slavery." I mean, let that sink in. It's a shocking admission. He's saying wherever you find illegal deforestation, you're almost guaranteed to find people being exploited in the absolute worst ways imaginable. And he's not just being dramatic. That phrase, conditions analogous to slavery, isn't just some turn of phrase. It's an actual legal term in Brazil. It refers to forced labor, where people are trapped, not literally with chains, but with crushing debt, with threats against them or their families, and sometimes just by the sheer impossible distance of the Amazon itself. There's just no way out. And you don't have to take a prosecutor's word for it. Listen to what one rescued worker, a man named João, said. His words just say it all. Here, cattle are treated better than workers. Can you even imagine that? Living in a reality where the animals you're forced to take care of are valued more than your own life? And it's not just the workers who are brought in. Think about the indigenous communities. The invasion of their lands for cattle pasture just completely destroys a way of life that's existed for centuries. It replaces the forests they depend on, their food sources, their culture, with just an endless sea of cattle. So you see, this is the key point. The forced labor, the land theft, these aren't just some unfortunate side effects. No, they are central to the business model. They are the things that keep costs down and make the whole environmental crime of deforestation so incredibly profitable. So the question becomes, how does this all connect to us? How does beef that was raised on stolen land by people who are being exploited make its way from the middle of the Amazon all the way to the rest of the world?
Well, it happens through a shady process that some people call cattle laundering. Here's how it works. Step 1, a rancher illegally clears a patch of forest, Farm A. Step 2, they raise the cattle there and then move them from that illegal, dirty farm to a completely legal, clean farm, Farm B. Then, step 3, a major meat packer comes along and buys the cattle from the clean Farm B, and they can just throw up their hands and say, hey, we had no idea where these cows originally came from.
And from that point, the connection to our own lives gets really, really direct. That beef gets exported all over the world. And the leather from those same cattle, it gets sold to tanneries, but then supplies some of the biggest names in fashion, in shoes, and even in the auto industry. Look, I know this is a really bleak picture. It's easy to feel hopeless. But the story is not over. There are absolutely ways to change this perverse economic equation. It's just gonna take some serious commitment. The big global brands, the ones buying all this beef and leather, they face a really tough choice. On one hand, they could just pull out of the region completely to avoid any risk, right? Just wash their hands of it. Or they could stay and engage. They could use their incredible buying power, their leverage, to push for real transparency and demand actual change from their suppliers. And here's the most surprising part of this whole thing. Brazil already has the tools it needs to fix this problem. I'm serious. They have legally binding agreements for slaughterhouses. They have a public, dirty list that names and shames employers caught using slave labor. They have sophisticated monitoring systems to track where cattle come from. There's even a plan in the works to electronically tag every single head of cattle by 2032. The tech is there. The laws are on the books.
So really, it all boils down to one big question. Brazil has everything it needs to create a cattle industry that's sustainable, that's clean, that's ethical. The tools are right there. The question is, will they be used? Will the political and economic will to actually enforce these laws finally show up? Because the one thing the Amazon doesn't have is more time.